this brings us to our next topic: scaling fintech capabilities, powering digital economy. Everything moves with some power. Let's gather insights into what powers the digital economy. To take this forward, please welcome Sachin Seth, partner Ernst & Young, digital and fintech leader, Ernst & Young, in discussion with Abhay Johorey, head technology architecture, ICICI Bank, Siddharth Mehta, CEO and MD at Freecharge, Bimaljeet Singh Bhasin, President, Skills and Careers Business, NIIT Limited.
Hi, thanks, Dilip. Thank you so much. And,
pleasure, sir.
Really great to be in the company of eminent panelists and the host from NIIT. And in fact, I was attending the previous session. It was so mesmerizing and fascinating that, it is really difficult to carry forward this session because we are trying to bring it back to the business nuts and bolts. And we were all sort of listening to something which is like a fairy tale stories or the hard work which media companies or media personalities will have to do to really make a mark. And it's probably multiple times a lot more difficult and complicated than making a corporate career or fintech career. But fine, I mean, we are here to sort of also look at the aspects of career making. Interesting part is that Guneet also mentioned that she started off as an insurance salesperson. So, there's a BFSI connect to, Guneet's story as well. And we'll try to take it forward, looking at the new age story of digital and fintech, what all we are sort of encountering now, right? So with this, starting to just get warmed up and quick questions to our eminent panelists who are representing leading organizations. Probably, Abhay, let me start with you. That, we have, what we understand is that in the audience, we have people representing different industries. And obviously, the fintech has been one of the center point for the whole startup ecosystem evolution, which has been happening, and the impact which it's making on the country, globe, as well as the whole ecosystem of the skill development. So, would you like to demystify what that fintech means? And as a career banker and have worked with fintechs also in the past in many ways, a quick probably a snapshot from you that how do we demystify fintech, right?
Yeah, thanks, Sachin. So, I mean, when we say fintech, we actually mean two things simultaneously. We mean a stream of technology, and we mean, the small challengers who use that technology. So we call both of them fintech. So just making that subtle distinction. So fintech, when we say fintech, we actually mean application of technology to bring financial services, delivery and execution in a much better sense from what was offered traditionally. And when we mean the firms, we mean small challengers, new firms who are coming on. And typically the strategy that these firms follow is they're very niche, they're very focused on a particular offering, and they rapidly disrupt, the landscape around which that product is conceived and developed. Yeah. So when we say fintech, we actually mean both of them together. So while the small firms have actually, clearly made a dent, they have taken customer experience on to the next level. They have pretty much raised the bar on innovation. The jury's still out as to how much of competitive landscape has been changed as a result of that. Yeah. So they've changed the basis of competition, but not the competition per se. No bank is really looking at them as competition. I mean, it's looking at more of them as, someone who's actually raised the bar. And obviously there is a long-term, implication of how this whole thing evolves. Yeah. So that's what I would say, is fintech.
That's good. That's great. That's great, Abhay, to sort of set the tone for our discussion. So, Siddharth, coming to you, that there has been a lot of talk, happening about collaboration, competition between the banks, between the fintechs, and obviously both are scrambling for skills to find the right skills. At the same time, for the similar customer base, sometimes they are collaborating, sometimes they are competing. So, how do you see banks basically leveraging the fintech wave? I mean, is it something that there are real use cases coming up, or is it that more that still jury is out and it's evolving, that what exactly is going to be the future?
Thank you, Sachin. So just sort of, I think to start with, let's look at a little bit of history and background. So see, the banking industry has been using technology for quite some time. It's not as if technology is new to the banking industry. It's been using quite some time. But the way technology was used earlier to the way technology is now getting used is very, very different. Now, a lot of stuff that the fintech is bringing into the ecosystem is a technology first, customer first approach. Then technology is just being a platform to service. Technology has now become a core factor of doing business to that extent. So see, banks have been transforming. There is no question that banks have not been transforming and evolving over the last few years. COVID has actually accelerated this. If you see, the last 2 years have really accelerated this. And the way I look at what banks are now thinking and how banks are operating in the fintech with the fintech ecosystem in parallel is, one, they're focusing on building their own capabilities. So it's an important part of either doing your own business or doing partnership with fintech. So they're building their own capabilities. They're building in-house teams. They're getting skill sets acquired in-house that can actually think like a fintech and build like a fintech to that extent. They're building customer first approach products. They're using technology a lot in that. The second thing banks are doing is they're actually partnering with fintechs now. They're partnering with fintechs for distribution of products, because eventually, if you look at the product set, the product set is largely the same. It's about how you deliver it to the customer, which is very important. And then there are obviously innovations in the process and that happen in the journey that happens. So they're partnering with fintechs to deliver these products. The third thing, I think what banks are doing is, working with fintechs to co-create products and journeys. So one side is partnering, distribute my product, I will give you APIs. The other side is let's work together to actually co-create the journeys and the products to make life simple. So in my perspective, I think the banking ecosystem is looking at it from all perspectives. And it's not one direction saying they are competition. As Abhay said, I don't think they are competition. I think they're more partners in the journey. And both of them together can actually make the customer experience far better and the product experience far better.
Excellent, excellent. I think that's a wonderful sort of point of view, Siddharth. So coming to Bimal, you have been driving the agenda for skill development, or basically looking at that, what kind of digital workforce enablements are required in the industry, and especially financial services industry, which is hugely dependent on various kind of sort of skills. It could be technological skills, it could be domain skills, it could be regulatory skills, etc. So what's your thought? This fintech and banking either complementing or competing or coming together, but eventually they are expanding the whole sort of industry base, right? So from skills perspective, where do you see it's heading? I mean, is there a edge one has over other? Let's say banking has more domain and fintechs have more technology, or are you seeing those lines blur and it's becoming a more homogeneous kind of a lot as far as the skills are concerned?
Thanks, Sachin. So I think clearly right now there is, obviously a larger set of, what you call as technology skills, which lies with the fintech, right? And really the part around leveraging technology and many advantages that technology brings with it. And we'll talk more about it. And I think both Siddharth and Abhay touched about it. That's what banks are trying to now adopt from a technology perspective and leverage technology. Because see, while fintechs have their advantages, like I just said, let's equally be honest that every fintech aspired to be like a bank, right? And on the other side, every bank aspired to be like a fintech. So we are not saying they want to become a bank or they want to become a fintech, but they aspire. So which means whatever are some great attributes of being a fintech, bank wants to adopt those things, right? So what does it mean from a skill set perspective, given that the conversation here is more about large banks or financial services companies adopting technology? Are really two or three that we are seeing. One is the whole domain of course, the engineering part, which is, whether it is architecting, developing, and there, of course, given the domain knowledge of the banks, there is definitely an advantage. At the same point of time, again, what we've seen is that given banks, and obviously they are very large organizations and have very real compliance and risk related challenges, so they have to balance that aspiration, right? And at times we have seen that obviously fintechs have this little agility that they play with over there. So I think, but the engineering includes, whether it is the developers or the architects, is one part of the skill. And there, especially in our case, because we also have been deeply engaging with the BFSI industry for over 20 years, we are able to work with our customers which solve both problems for them. So that's one dimension. I think the other dimension, which again, because of technology, fintech companies leverage well, is the leverage of data, right? So how do you use data to create personalized solutions, to create solutions which are micro market based, right? So I think that's a very important dimension that many banks are again trying to adopt. Almost all banks have realized that you cannot put all markets. So in Delhi, say for example, you can't have the same product for a customer in Greater Kailash versus a customer in Karol Bagh, right? Now both are rich people, right? Both I'm sure both ICICI Bank and Freecharge and everyone else would want to have them as customers, but you have to give them different products, right? Give them different solutions, sell them differently. And I think that's also a power of what technology brings in. And how do you then leverage data to create micro market solutions or to create personalized offerings, right? So that's a very important two dimensions of technology skills and leveraging data to create products on one side and sell on the other side, to customers. So those are three things that we are seeing, Sachin. You're on mute, Sachin.
Perfect. So no, that's great, Vimal. I think that helps in sort of understanding the broad base of how evolution of technology is happening as far as the people agenda is concerned. So Abhay, coming back to you, we all know that ICICI Bank has been on the forefront of digital evolution, and I know some of the agendas are being reimagined for 2025. I've gone through the analyst sort of detailed presentation, one of the most exhaustive presentations I've seen in the banking industry. And there it does talk about bank becoming a bank tech, and areas wherein, and I would say even analyst presentation, if you see almost 70 to 80%, the talk is about digital and tech and analytics and risk management, and less about the banking numbers, because banking numbers are really the outcome of all that we do. Right?
That's correct.
That's right. So really curious to know, and I'm sure this would be of great interest to audience as well, that, how bank like ICICI Bank, which has so many, very large population, starting from, RM to basically a credit officer to going up to, basically people working on different products and even technology, how you are able to take all of them along, and how this transformation is happening as far as adoption of technology, because generally people who know banking, they will, take pride in knowing it, and they would contain themselves to that, right? So how the transformation of ICICI Bank is happening, which you are, playing a significant role, and maybe good to know from you that, different skills, within technology, there are some 100 skills, right? So how do you really basically take it forward, and how you are able to sort of stitch it all together to make the bank as a bank tech story?
All right. Thank you. And thank you for using the term bank tech. Yeah. So basically, you got big tech, which is, the entire GAFA world, the Google, Facebook, now Meta, Microsofts and Amazons of the world. Then there is fintech, small incumbent challengers who are actually just slugging it out. And then you got bank tech, which is, incumbents who have brands, who have distribution, who have customers and profits, and they are upping their act, let me just focus a little on when we say bank tech, what do we mean? Yeah. So, see, the point is, over the last 50 years, technology innovation actually has been fundamental to financial services transformations. Yeah. So in the 60s, when semiconductors and microprocessors happened, and 70s when the mainframes happened, we actually moved from manual ledgers to automated ledgers. Yeah, we enabled batch processing. 80s when PCs and LANs came, we could certainly have intranets, we could certainly have data centers, we could have corporate systems. We automated all the branch banking and stuff like that. In the 90s, when internet and smart devices, started happening, you certainly had electronic trading. We could facilitate global exchange of data, and when mobile came, you certainly had, a new way to reach out to the customers. Between browsers and apps, you could certainly launch digital banking. So the point is that banks have always used tech, as a very large element in the arsenal to make sure that we deliver value to the customers and all our stakeholders. Yeah. What's different now, and I would say between 2010 and 2025, you certainly have a whole host of emerging technologies that are converging in maturity. And this is the important point, is that A, there is convergence. You got 4 or 5 large technologies coming together. And B is maturity, which is that it is now valid for large scale usage, in a fairly resilient form. And let me just briefly talk about what are these technologies. Yeah, you got biometrics, you got cloud computing, you got cognitive computing, you got machine learning and predictive analytics, you have robotics. Yeah, and then in the near horizon, you have the entire distributed ledger technology, the foundation for blockchains and cryptos. You have quantum computing, which is a whole new way. And, we can actually just take computing onto the next level. Now, all of these, what were emerging in 2010s have now become mainstream. Yeah. So when we are saying what is the next evolution of bank tech, we are talking about how do all of these elements get used in a toolkit. Yeah. So that's what bank tech's all about. Now, specifically, when you're looking at ICICI Bank, we are looking at 4 very large vectors. Yeah. The first one is customer experience. We were the first ones to really launch the browser and the app, and very, very good reception, from the markets. And the point is to just take it on to the next level is, and when you say experience, how do you rigorously define experience? Is A, it should be easy. B, it should be effective in the sense of, you should manage to do what you intended or to do. And third, and I think the most important is you should feel good about it, so there's emotion. So the 3 E's of, easy, effective, and resulting in good, positive emotions. That's what we mean by customer experiences. And obviously starts with, design of journeys, and then gets on to an architecture that can actually support those kind of journeys. Yeah. So that's the first vector is, take customer experience on to the next level. Yeah. And it's more than just branding. It is actually just making sure that customers actually find it easy, and effective. The second pillar really is hyper automation, and, combination of what we call cognitives, robotics, and cloud certainly enables a whole host of things to be taken on to the next level. And let me just say it in a more dramatic fashion. Computers can now see better, talk better, read better, orchestrate better. And when I say better, I mean better than humans. Yeah. And certainly, therefore, there's an opportunity to facilitate a whole host of very, very routine, batch, kind of jobs to be completely automated end to end. And the important thing here is end to end. Yeah. And that results in a dramatic reduction on the cost base by which we actually deliver our products to the customers. Yeah. So that's a second vector, which is hyper automation. Then there is a third vector, which is, this whole intelligence. Yeah. Which is, and people actually interchangeably use artificial intelligence and machine learning. So, let me use a more technical term, which is machine learning, which is, there's a suite of technologies. It's not one technology. It's a suite of technologies that allows us to see patterns, that allows us to predict better, that allows us to recommend better, and these technologies again have to be embedded in not just one process, which is either marketing or credit, but across the bank. Yeah. So there is embedded intelligence in everything that you do. There's a lot of evidence which actually starts backing your data. Yeah. That takes us to the next level. So that's a third pillar. And finally, we have the fourth pillar, and Siddharth touched upon it, which is partnerships. innovation could actually happen anywhere. I mean, large banks, are not just the only repositories where innovation happens. It happens in the environment. And the point is, you move away from an industry to an ecosystem. You move away from a siloed kind of an offering to, embedded, kind of an offering. Yeah. So initially you actually had just the assisted banking. Then you had digital banking, which was largely, STP and self-serve. And now you have embedded banking, which means that the bank pretty much becomes invisible, and it actually gets embedded in what the customers actually want to do. Yeah. And that's where partnerships actually play a huge role. Yeah. As the old saying goes, I mean, nobody wants a mortgage, right? People want a home. And therefore, when you are doing a home loan, the act of the home loan should involve the builders, should involve the interior decorators, should involve, the life stage of the customers, and all of the stuff actually has to, get together. So when you combine all of those and use the emerging technologies that I mentioned, you certainly have, the next level of where banks evolve to. So that's bank tech. Yeah. So that's what we are doing. Now to your second part of the question, which was, from the RMs onto the CEO, how does this large organization execute, this shift well? And I would say actually acquiring technologies is the easier part. Yeah. the 8 different things that need to get done, so whether it's strategy or culture or talent or user experience or IT philosophy or, the project management, or even just the business strategic shift, those shifts are a little more, difficult to execute. So when you're talking strategy, you move from an old world of just efficiency is, do more with less, to innovation is how can we, suddenly do things that we never did before. Yeah. When you're looking at culture, you are moving from hierarchy, which is that everything will be decided at top and pushed down to the bottom, to collaboration is, again, innovation could happen anywhere in the, environment. When you're looking at talent, you certainly moving from low cost is, how can I get this talent at a minimum cost, to high skill is I need, folks who understand this stuff well. Yeah. When you're looking at technology, obviously looking at old legacy, and legacy, mind you, was cutting edge, in 90s, to a cloud, data, mobile, cognition, how do I get all of that stuff? From user experience, banks weren't the best. You look about 80s or 70s, who cares about user experience, to it becoming mission critical. Yeah. From an IT philosophy, the default was no, it cannot be done, to a default that suddenly switches to yes, it can be done. Let me tell you about, 15 other problems that you can solve with this piece. To project management is waterfall, is you better be very clear about what you want, you get your PRDs, you dot every I, cross every T. To an agile is, let's just work this out together, yeah, and get this whole iteration. And finally, to businesses, I will not just service you and support you, I will develop a deep relationship with you appropriate to your life state. Yeah.
Right.
So all of these shifts, have to be concomitant with the technology piece. Yeah. So moving from a bank to a bank tech, is not just acquiring shiny pieces of technology. It's executing these 8 shifts, properly as well.
Right. No, thanks, Abhay. I think that's a very, very good insight about how things are sort of being taken up in bank like ICICI Bank, which is among the lead runner of the business in the country. So just, on a lighter note, just wanted to share with you, I think you did talk about machine learning a couple of times. And I think I was just remembering somebody mentioned that, as people are trying to focus on machine learning, I think humans need to become learning machine. Right? So,
well said.
So becoming learning machine is more important for us to survival, because if everything machines are going to do, then what humans will do, right? So we got to keep learning more and more and more, right? So that's a thought I had. But thanks, pretty good insight. So Siddharth, coming to you on a slightly different note, because I've seen the journey of Axis Bank evolving and becoming the top league bank with very diversified portfolio. One side government, defense, to going up to, let's say, ASAP banking, which is, cutting edge, and acquisition of Freecharge, which was again a path-breaking sort of thought process. And I know that Bharat Bank, which is another initiative coming up, right? So big things. So wanted to know that how a bank like Axis Bank is able to look at the talent agenda when you acquire a fintech like Freecharge. There is a lot of cultural differences, right? So it's born in a different generation, right? And obviously integrating with the bank, making it the ecosystem of bank for the merchants, for the payments, etc. I'm sure it would have been a sort of a tough sort of battle, right? So how the experience has been, and maybe a couple of bullet points you want to share, that how this journey takes place for the audience to know that how do you really integrate a fintech in a large corporate like this.
So thanks, Sachin. And obviously, when we started the journey, it was not the best. Obviously, as you said, culturally, there are two different ways the organizations think and the people think. Also, culturally, just basic average age of people is very different. So if you look at a fintech, the average age is far lower than the banking industry average age. And how you look at things was different. So initially, yes, we had our challenges, but as I said earlier, the banks have been transforming. It's not that they've not been transforming. Everybody is at a different pace. In the last 24 to 36 months, Sachin, what we've seen is there's been a tremendous transformation in the Axis Bank journey. So if I take, let's say 2.5, 3 years back, yes, we had challenges. There were nobody thinking digital first in Axis Bank. There was nobody thinking building platform and products for partnership, so that you could sort of do business through API banking. So that thought process was not there. But if I stand today, the gap has actually reduced dramatically. The skill sets have changed. The thought process has changed. And today, where I sit with Freecharge, a lot of products we have launched and we are going to launch are all on the Axis Bank platform, or all through APIs, which if you would ask me 3 years back, I would have said nothing is possible. So there's been a dramatic change in the way Axis Bank is thinking about digital. The other thing that Axis Bank has done, Sachin, see, one of the important parts is, do your people think digital? Do they think customer first? In a traditional scenario, banks used to think saying we have to deliver a product. There is a technology stack that's available. Now let's merge and see what is the best out. And used to bring a product out to the ecosystem. And the product manager's job was just to look at the features of the product and how many numbers are happening. Today, when you're building a product, you're thinking customer first, you're thinking digital first, you're working with the tech to build the architecture, as Abhay said. It's not tech has said, this is the architecture, now you build the product, it's jointly getting built. So the architectures are getting refined. So the skill sets are changing, thinking is changing. Axis Bank has acquired a lot of tech skill in-house. There's a large team of developers, front-end, back-end, QA designers who sit within Axis Bank now, developing these products, building these products within the bank. The product, if you look at the product ecosystem, the product thought process has changed. Earlier, as I said, the product thought process was, how do I deliver the numbers and I want to launch a feature. So now people are becoming product tech. They're actually working together with tech and thinking on how both of us can work together to give the best solution out to the market. So in the 4 years of our journey with Axis Bank, and we've sort of 4 years just got completed in October of 2021, the first 18 months were very different. The last 24 months have been very, very different. Axis Bank has evolved tremendously on the digital side. And the bearing to that is, for example, they launched a full lending stack on the cloud, on an open API architecture.
Right.
Completely end-to-end lending stack on the cloud on API architecture, all built in-house, proprietary. Typical bank scenario used to bought a technology product and then used to try to implement it. It's all built in-house. The kind of the VSIP journey that the bank has built, the kind of deployments that have happened in a year, 1,000 different deployments have happened within those journeys, which was not possible in the old 3 years back or a few years back in the banking industry.
Right.
So there's been a dramatic change, and today, we've launched BNPL with Axis Bank, which is a customer-facing product, which is a small ticket. We are launching a neo banking product with the bank. So there is a lot of change that's happened with the bank, Sachin. And some of it is thanks to obviously the change in the mindset, and the second is the change in the skill set.
Perfect. Great. Well, I think that's pretty good insight. So Vimal, coming to you, I think NIIT has been playing a significant role for almost 4 decades. And now that the need of the industry has changed a little bit, right? As I briefly mentioned in the beginning that, most of the banking was done by bankers. Now, as just now, Siddharth also mentioned that, technologists have sort of done the land grab. I may be using a little bit harsh word, but that's what reality is, right? And so how NIIT is working with leading organizations to have them take this journey, transition into a typical banking domain specialist, convert themselves into more digital oriented, tech oriented. They are able to appreciate technology. They are able to understand the product propositions, etc. So how NIIT, because it's a mass scale sort of transition in terms of the approach, understanding, and even the way you recruit people, right? So Bimal, wanted to hear your thoughts and your experience that how NIIT has been sort of working on this agenda, and companies can look forward to that.
Sure. No, thanks, Abhay. And I think I'll just take clues from what Abhay and Siddharth said. So there are two parts, like we discussed in the first part of my comments, which is really the skill set part. And like we discussed, skill set largely are either on the technology side. I mean, you can talk about tools like AI and ML, or engineering and architecting. So the technology part of the skill set. Now, of course, the advantage that NIIT brings in is that we are deep on both sides, on the technology side and on the domain side, and that combination we are able to. And the other part is leverage of data, like I said earlier, to both create products and to cross sell. But coming to your other question, which is the mindset part of it, right? I mean, so what we are saying is, from our perspective, I'm sure while there's a larger cultural problem, but if we narrow down the problem to mindset of people, from our perspective. So firstly, let's look at the very basic connect points with customer, right? Branches of banks were made to serve customer, right? So traffic to serve, versus all fintech companies created traffic to sell or cross sell, right? So there is a basic difference in the very first customer touch point itself. Are you there to serve? Are you there to sell or cross sell, right? And I think that is something that we are trying to build in banks, that when a customer walks into your branch, or every conversation, right? So every touch point on a fintech platform or a tech platform, and now fintech is equal to bank tech, etc., etc. But every touch point there is an opportunity to cross sell. Okay, whereas banks are still struggling to build that mindset that every time a customer walks into the branch and there's a touch point, I have to sell to the customer, right? All the bank does is, you've come to withdraw cash, we will give you cash, you're happy, we've served you well, right? We've given you the best of the environment, we've given you your cash, we've given you everything, but you're gone, we haven't used. So the whole mindset of maximizing on the opportunity maximization mindset, versus a fulfillment mindset or a service delivery mindset, I think is one dimension which we are trying to work on right now. And there are many cultural nuances. In fact, earlier part, we had Amitabh earlier in the day, and so selling in itself in banking at many years back was not seen as the right thing, right? So there is this connotation of big issue that we made about selling itself, right? So the opportunity maximization, I think the other part is, and again, let's be, the other part that technology companies, and in this case, fintech companies have proven, is that, obviously banks always had, banks as in large organizations, always had more resources than technology companies, always, right? Technology companies are only technology. But despite all of those constraints, again, the mindset of opportunity maximization, despite constraints, despite limitations, I don't have a branch network, we don't have anything, we don't have a bank license, we don't have anything, right? We only have technology, and we have the focus of creating these very simple products that will solve a micro problem for a customer. That's it, right? And from there you start, and you then start maximizing on the opportunity. So I think such mindset shifts, that how do you look at every opportunity to maximize, because
right,
there is opportunity. Every bank is looking at opportunity. I think the third dimension of this is really the whole agility of workforce, right? The speed at which you operate, just the sheer agility, swiftness with which you want to go out to the market, and not keep holding yourself back under your construct of compliance and risk and everything else, which is very important. I'm not for a minute trying to question, and I have no authority to question what banks do on that side. But all I'm saying is that from my experience as a consumer of fintech, as a customer of fintech, right? Here was somebody who created a great solution in my hand with which I can pay 43 rupees to someone, and I don't have to worry about either figuring out those 3 rupees or 7 rupees, right? So for me, the problem is solved. So I think those are mindset related things in addition to the skill set that I spoke earlier about that we are working on, Sachin.
Excellent, excellent. So in the interest of time, we have many other sessions lined up. So it will be the last sort of question and rapid fire round. I'll keep it very fact based. So don't expect any, spillover of the previous session and bringing our glamour industry into it. It will be purely based on fintech and digital. And so quick question, 4 questions to all 3 of you. And you have to just rate it or prioritize this, saying that which one you expect to happen first and which one to happen second, right? I'll keep repeating the questions if just to keep the sequence for all of you clear. So my first question is that when will bank stop recruiting people with, people who don't have any kind of technology skills? So I hope you got the question that, banks do recruit people with all kind of skills, but I think there will be a time, possibly maybe 3 years later, 5 years later, that bank will stop recruiting anybody who does not have technical skills, right? Possibly, yes. Maybe bankers are here, they can answer this question. So that's one. Second is that when we will see a technologist become CEO of a regulated bank in India. Okay, I know it's a little bit political question, but I'm just putting the, this is in the ring, because obviously there should be a time. We have seen HR people becoming CEO. We have seen different, domains. So now that technology is becoming a mainstream, why not a technologist become a bank CEO, and that too of a scheduled bank, right? The third question is that when will India be the largest player as far as fintech is concerned on the global roadmap? So we right now see Silicon Valley, UK, China, Singapore, and India. These are the 5 hubs, and now Latin America is emerging a little bit. But fintechs are really going aggressive, and India is becoming, especially payments, India is a leader, but I guess there are other areas which India can emerge. And the fourth question is that when we will see the level playing field coming out where the fintech valuations and the bank valuations will level out, right? So I know these are 4 questions, 4 directions. One is on valuation, one is on talent, one is on leadership, and one is on India's leadership in fintech. And all 4 questions are same to you. You can just rank them the first, second, third, fourth. If you want to put a forecast of a year, happy to get that also from you. I wouldn't get a chance to have 3 leaders making a forecast for the future very soon. So, just want to have that for the benefit of all the audience. Yeah. Abhay, you can go first, please.
So in terms of, folks with technical skills, I would just add a caveat, appropriate technical skills. Okay. I don't think anyone, will be hired who does not, understand technologies or intimidated by it. Obviously at different levels, you need different levels of skills. There's a higher level of architecture strategy.
Sorry to interrupt, Abhay, but I'm saying that what you're saying is that right now also that time has come. So we said 2022 is the time when people are not going to hire people without having a technological background for relevant work, right? Obviously.
That's correct. Appropriate technological background. Not everyone will need to, write Python code, for health steps. But everyone will need to understand, what an agile methodology is, the difference between UX and UI. How is an API different from a microservice? That's already happened.
Great.
In the bank that I work with. So that's the first question. The second question was relating to, it was in no particular sequence, but the valuations of fintechs and banks. My sense is banks that adopt, the banks that actually get the religion, for digital and continue to use the technology elements as appropriate to their strategy will definitely have a higher valuation than than fintech players. I don't see fintech, getting the kind of valuation that banks who adapt and change will. So there's a caveat to this answer. The third one is, when will a technology head become a CEO of Indian bank? My sense is, give it for the current cohort, give it another 4 to 5 years. Having said that, the current leadership in all banks, I guarantee you this, are going through huge, self-learning and experiential modes on what technology can do for them. So whether it's in the form of war games, whether it's a form of just raising technology IQ, or whether it's just understanding at least 4 or 5 emerging technologies and their impact, that stuff is happening as we speak. Yeah. And the last one is, will India become a fintech capital ahead of US? My sense is in some parameters, we are ahead of the world, when it comes to payments, when it comes to account aggregation, Sahmati, which is actually open banking to the level X. The rest of the world hasn't even comprehended, the kind of stuff that we can do with the India stack, to that in terms of just sheer technical chops. I think we are ahead of the world, primarily because of the very large infrastructure, that is now there in the public realm. There is not one single company that's sponsoring it, right? Take UPI or Aadhaar or account aggregation. We are a level above. Valuations will follow, and obviously, you got to have some weightage given to the economy of the country itself, and the future prospects. But in terms of this sheer technical wizardry and the technical competence and the comprehensive ecosystem that's been developed, we are second.
Right. Perfect. Siddharth, your point of view?
Yeah, okay. So I'll also go in order. So on the first question on stopping hiring basis skills. So the way I look at it is, Sachin, what is going to happen is there is still going to be a balance between hiring people, and as Abhay said, for the job with the right skill set, plus hiring people who know how to use technology. So you will have a balance on both sides, because as Abhay said, and as I believe, that not everybody has to understand technology from a perspective of APIs, microservices. You need to also understand technology on how to use it, because unless you can use it, you can't help your customer use it. So I think what is going to change in the bank is, yes, there is already hiring happening with people who understand technology and can implement technology. But also on the other side, banks have now started finding balance in hiring people who can use technology and help people use technology. So that's the first question. Tech CEO or technologist as a CEO of a bank, I have a little divergent view. I think most of the CEOs of the bank are actually becoming technologists.
Correct.
So you don't need a technologist to become a CEO of the bank. I think, as Abhay said, the CEOs of the bank are upgrading their skills to become technologists, and eventually you will find most of them have actually eventually turned into technologists. So you will not need to find a technologist to come and run a bank.
Yeah, and just to interrupt you, Siddharth, I know that you have 2 more to answer. And on a lighter note, and with my inside information of the banking ecosystem, that's why the technology budgets gets approved very fast nowadays. Right? There is practically no limit on the budgets on technology, right?
So there is accountability for it, yeah, Sachin.
Yeah, there is accountability, but yes, there is investment going, Sachin. You're right. There's a lot of investment going. If you're actually being able to deliver the right set.
It was on the lighter note. I know. Everything goes through CFOs and everything goes through business cases. But I thought, probably it is much easier what it used to be 5 years back. So because there is a need also, obviously. Yeah. Perfect. Sorry, Siddharth, I interrupted you.
No problem. Next question is level playing field on valuations. I think, Sachin, as we go into the future, valuations are more going to be defined by how you use technology to deliver capabilities to consumers, and how do you use it to make your capabilities more efficient. So your systems, your processes more efficient. So I think over a period of time, and as Abhay said, banks are already in that direction. I think this level playing field will come in the next few years. It will automatically come because the evolution is happening on both sides. Bimal made a point saying fintechs aspire to be banks. Banks aspire to be fintechs. Both of them have to upgrade their skills. Banks are upgrading technology skills. Fintechs are upgrading their compliance, regulatory, all those kind of skills. So there is going to be a balance in the next few years. But yes, valuations will get defined on how are you adopting and using technology.
Right.
For sure. And largest fintech global hub, I think we are already there. So, not looking at dollar valuations and so on and so forth. As Abhay said, UPI. Great example. We are sort of far ahead of the market. We are bigger than China now when you look at payments, digital payments to that extent. The whole India stack, which is enabling the whole fintech revolution in India. It's a big thing, and it's also helping the bank tech, as Abhay says, because to provide those services to that extent. I think we are not far behind. I think we are there, and we will sort of move ahead in the next few years, keeping valuations aside, because valuations can get defined due to multiple factors.
Multiple parameters. I agree.
Countries and regions.
Right. Excellent. Bimal, your quick 4 bullet points on this.
So Sachin, I don't know if I'll make all 4 bullet points. Of course, Abhay and Siddharth are, veterans from the industry. I will only comment from a consumer perspective, and second, from somebody who's worked very closely with both industries, technology and BFSI. So, see, from a consumer perspective, I think was whoever serves the customer well, gives him the most convenience, gives him personalized service, will win. I mean, as a consumer, bank tech, fintech,
Right.
good for the panel discussion. But as a consumer, I would want to keep my choices very simple.
Sure.
But on your question of can we become, the talent capital to the world? Why not? We are the talent capital for technology, right? And our banking systems and policies have been recognized across the globe, including management of many crises, right? So given that we have great credentials on both banking and technology, I see no reason why we can't, and we should be. Actually, that's a claim that we should lay very quickly, that we want to be the fintech capital of the world.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Thank you. And I think it was wonderful talking to all of you. Great time spent. I know we are limited by only time. Probably the ideas are a lot more. So handing it back to Dilip, to you, to our host, to take the session forward. And would like to thank again to audience, NIIT for hosting the event, and all our eminent co-panelists here. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sachin. Thank you, Sachin, for the fruitful and very engaging discussion. Ladies and gentlemen, the world is a lonely place and interesting at the same time also.